G'day guys, I'm Matt Brand, and this is the 2020 Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. The Pajero Sport has just been facelifted and is competing in a very competitive mid-sized SUV market, which is one of the fastest growing car segments in Australia and in the world. So today we are going to be doing an in-depth full review of the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. Now, as always, we will start by taking a look at the exterior of the Pajero Sport. Then we're going to move onto the interior and see how it drives. And finally, we're going to end on should you buy one. And if you are new to the channel, please do go down there and hit the subscribe button. I release an awesome new car review every single week. And if you do enjoy the video, please do leave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Now, starting with the front, and I really like the front of this car. It's got that kind of smug, uptight look about it that I think just suits the car so well. The light arrays up front is probably my favorite part of the front of the car. I love the way that they've split the headlight and daytime running lights with the fog lights and the turn signal indicators. It's a really cool look for both of them. They both look really nice. Now, admittedly, they're not the brightest lights in the world, but they're okay. I really like the way that the lights are integrated into the front grille, and then there's these big chrome parts on the front that look really cool. And even though there's so much going on with the front of the Pajero Sport, I actually think it's really well done. Very tasteful, very premium looking. Of course, down the bottom we have a skid plate because this is an off-roading car. And overall, I just really like the front. It's got kind of that get out of my way, mate, kind of look to it, and I'm a big fan. Moving on to the side, and the side is pretty decent. To be honest, it's nothing really to write home about, and you can see here that the car is just absolutely huge. Being over 4.8 meters long and 1.8 meters tall, this is a big car. And really, it does just look like an SUV wagon, which is effectively what this car is. Its underpinnings are a Mitsubishi Triton. Shares much more in common with the Triton than it does the Pajero. But regardless, I actually think it's not a bad design. It's just massive. I do really like the 18-inch two-tone wheels. I think they suit the car so well, and there is plenty of clearance in case you want to put on even more knobby tires without having to put a lift kit on it, which is a nice touch. Overall though, it does look incredibly like its competition. They're all the exact same shape and look between the Toyota Fortuner, the Isuzu MUX, all of those. They look pretty similar. And then moving on to the rear, and the rear has been revised a little bit, although not too much has been done. You can see that the rear tail lights, they are actually smaller than the pre-facelift because people really did not like that look. And I honestly didn't mind it, although I suppose it does kind of look like a clown crying. Now it's just a little bit more sleek, a little bit more modern. They've effectively chopped off the bottom half of the light, so it still has that look, but just not as in your face. And then of course, down the bottom, we have another skid plate. Despite looking like an elongated rectangle, I actually really like the looks of the Pajero Sport. I really love the new Mitsubishi design language that they're using on this, the new ASX, the new Triton. I think it's such a nice look, especially with the front. It's so aggressive, and the Pajero Sport is a good looking car in my opinion, even if it does look like a giant rectangular prism. Now let's move on to the interior, but before we do, we're going to give it a little bit of a push. My God. Oh my God. It's got sports car qualities with its rear wheel drive. Scared the shit out of me though. All right, let's move on to the interior. And I want to start with the overall look, layout, and feel. Small caveat, when you get inside the interior, it's not as big as you would imagine. It does feel a little bit cramped. But then once you start touching around the interior and feeling around it, it's really premium. Yeah, there are a few hard plastics, but even they are kind of soft feeling. And then you get areas dotted around the entirety of the interior that feels so nice and premium. The door handles, the door resting points for your arms, whatever they're called, I've forgotten. The center console, the leg rest, they all feel super premium. Door armrests. What's wrong with me? The ergonomics in the car are pretty good. You have a tilt and telescoping steering wheel. There is enough adjustment in the seats, although they don't go down as low as I might hope, but they're still fine. There are no creaks, rattles, squeaks, nothing like that, which is really good, especially considering the car's really, really good price point, and we will be getting onto that soon. Number 2 are these seats. All the seats within this cabin are leather and they are really, really comfortable. Over longer journeys, I don't have many complaints, although I do have one. There is no lumbar support, which does seem like a little bit of an oversight. As I said, I'm not crashing. As I said, the ergonomics of the seats are really good. You can move them in almost any direction to your heart's content. And the way I would describe these seats are loungers. They really are loungers. Also, it does have heated seats, which are easy to use. They warm up your bum quite a lot. Number 3 is the 8-inch infotainment screen. This is one of the biggest improvements over the pre-facelift model, and it is a pretty damn good screen. It's very bright, it's really quick to the touch, and it's incredibly functional. It has digital radio, navigation, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. Literally everything you want, it has in the display. Although I do have a couple of complaints. There are no physical buttons or knobs, and that means that when you are trying to adjust things, it can be a little bit fiddly when you're driving. And my other complaint is that I've had a few occasions now where it has completely lagged out and become useless. It didn't even matter when I turned off the car at the lights and turned it back on, it didn't help, it was just stuck. And sometimes it does just randomly lag. For example, when I'm changing the volume on the steering wheel, it won't change for about 4 or 5 seconds, and I keep pressing it and suddenly it's too loud. This could potentially be fixed with a software patch, but I don't know, it's a bit concerning. 90% of the time though, it works, but it's that 10% which is pretty significant. Number 4 is the steering wheel. And for all my long-term subscribers out there, you know how much I care about my steering wheels, and this steering wheel is pretty good. It feels relatively good in the hand. It's certainly not the greatest materials out there, though there is a lot of functionality on the steering wheel. And that for me makes up for the fact it doesn't feel actually incredible. And that's because it is just so functional. You don't have to take your hands off the steering wheel to really do anything you need to in the car. It's all here. You can adjust the digital displays on the left-hand side, and then you've got music control down the bottom left. And then on the right, you have all of your cruise controls and safety controls, and you have a camera button, and you can turn that on while you're driving to see different camera angles. It's pretty cool. And then down the bottom right, you have your voice controls and your mobile controls. So it's all here. It's all really, really good. And something else that's really incredible are the shifting paddles. These are the best shifting paddles I have ever used in any car. First of all, they are real leather, which is absolutely incredible. And they are mounted to the steering wheel column, which means it doesn't matter where you turn the steering wheel, they always remain in place, which is really, really sporty. It's exactly what you want. If you're on a racetrack, which you will probably never be in this car, that's exactly how you want them to be. And in most cars, they are cheap plastic mounted on the steering wheel. I'm in shock. Literally the best I have ever used. Number 5 is the digital display cluster, which is actually pretty damn good. There is loads of adjustment in it. Sure, it's not anywhere near as good as Audi's digital cockpit or Mercedes MBUX, but it's not bad. And in fact, it is better than the Toyota rival. And you can see how that worked in the RAV4 review that I reviewed. There are a couple of issues with it though. It is quite low resolution with pretty poor graphics. And also the screen itself is not very big. It doesn't go very wide. It looks more like a square kind of just planted in there. But those are pretty minor complaints. It's actually a really good system, and I mean, I'm impressed. Again, for its price point, I'm very impressed. I should mention that this does have the digital displays because this is the Exceed variant, which is the top of the line. Number 6 is the air conditioning controls, and I like them because they're physical buttons and they just are very easy, intuitive to use. They do feel a little bit on the cheaper side, but whatever, they're physical buttons, they work really well, intuitive, simple to use, I like it. Moving on to the rear seats, and I have plenty of legroom, plenty of headroom. It is really nice back there. These seats, again, are the exact same kind of quality as up the front, meaning they're good. You have 2 USBs and a wall charger, 150-watt socket back there, which is fantastic. You have a nice center armrest, also fan control up on the roof, and you have vents not only in the back seats, but also the 3rd row back seats, which is awesome. It means if you have pets back there or other people back in the third row, they can stay nice and cool. Speaking of third rows, yes, there is a third row, and a lot of people do complain that the third row is really cramped. I can tell you now, the third row of this car, although my legs are elevated because the floor is quite high, I have enough knee room and enough headroom. And I'm almost 6 foot, 5'11". That is pretty good. It means that you can take 7 fully grown adults in this car. It will be a bit of a squeeze, but it will work. And when you don't need those seats, it's so easy to put them down and just have a really nice big boot. Now, talking about boot space, with those rear seats up, you only get 131 liters of boot space. And with the seats folded, it goes up to 502 liters of boot space, which is plenty. As I said, these seats do fold down flat, and so you have a nice flat loading bay. And then it's so easy to pull down the middle row of seats to get people inside of them and to just push them forward. And that means that you have like over 1,100 or something liters of luggage space. It just becomes huge. And you have underfloor storage as well. It's not a huge amount, but it's pretty good. So overall, it's an incredibly practical car, and it really has surprised me. So how does the Pajero Sport drive? Pretty well. The Pajero Sport is powered by a 2.4 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged diesel engine across the entire range. The little 4-cylinder pumps out 133 kilowatt of power and 430 Newton meters of torque, which is admittedly a little on the low end for the class. The Pajero Sport has a claimed 0 to 100 time of 10.4 seconds, or for you stuck in imperial times, a 0 to 60 mile per hour time of 9.7 seconds. Now, that does sound pretty slow, but in practice, because it has so much torque, it doesn't feel slow. Torque being the pulling power, the thing that pulls you back into your seat. Oh, it is, whoa. All of that is driven to the rear wheels. However, this is of course a 4-wheel drive, and it does have a magnificent 4-wheel drive system, the Mitsubishi Super Select 2. And it is unique because you can drive this car in permanent 4-wheel drive. All you have to do is turn this switch here and it will change from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive. It acts more like an all-wheel drive system. And most of its competitors, well, they require you to be in 4-wheel drive only in bad conditions. And as you saw there, I just turned a corner, no screeching. This car is incredibly grippy when you do have it in that 4-wheel drive system at the expense of a little bit of fuel. Honestly, the permanent 4-wheel drive system would make me want to buy this car over its competitors because it is an awesome safety feature. For example, we've all been in this situation. You're on a highway, you're doing 100 kilometers an hour, and all of a sudden there is torrential downpour and it's almost impossible to see in front of you. The road's really slippery. Honestly, it's no problem. You put the car into 4 high down there and you're in 4-wheel drive. You are in a much safer position than if you were driving in 2-wheel drive. You have loads more grip, and you just don't get that on competitors, and that is a huge feature in my opinion. Of course, this is a very capable off-roading car with that Super Select system, and I'm not going to go too much into the 4-wheel driving in this video, but down below I have linked some videos if you are wanting to learn more. After you've watched this video, do go down there and click on those. It has 2 diffs in it at the center and at the rear. It has great approach and departure angles. It's a really capable off-roader. But anyway, back to how it will be driven 99% of the time on roads. All of the power is sent via an 8-speed automatic transmission, which is a fantastic transmission. So smooth you wouldn't even know it's there, and it's just a standard torque converter automatic transmission. No dual clutches, nothing like that. It is really good. I should mention that it does have a 3,100 kilo towing capacity, which is actually really good for the class, which you wouldn't expect considering that it doesn't really have the best engine outputs. Now, driving around town for me has actually been super comfy. Sure, it doesn't have the softest suspension in its class, but really not that bad. Some reviewers have complained of a jarring in their back when they go over bumps, but about to go over bump, I felt no jarring. It's comfy around town. Yes, there's a little bit of bumpiness, but it's not that bad. And then handling is really good. It's a very planted ride. There is no body roll. For example, in the Volkswagen T-Cross I reviewed, which is a tiny SUV, that had god-awful body roll, and this is absolutely fine. It's really planted. Come on. Nice. Even when you take a corner, probably a bit too hard, it's pretty good. Probably owing to its slightly stiffer suspension. Overall, I'm a big fan with how it drives. I think it drives so competently on the roads, and I'm sure off-road, even though I haven't had a chance to test it, based on everything I've seen, it is just as equally a very competent off-roader. So big thumbs up, Mitsubishi. Big thumbs up. Is it worth it though? Well, I think so. The Pajero Sport starts at $46,730 drive away for the base model with 5 seats. And this version here, the Exceed with 7 seats, is just $59,990 drive away. Currently with a $1,500 cashback bonus as well. That's pretty good. Now, it may not exceed at any one thing, no pun intended. It may not exceed at any one thing. It's not the best driving in its class. It's not the best interior in its class, but by far it is the best value mid-size off-roading SUV in its class. Compared to the Toyota Fortuner, the Isuzu MU-X, and the Ford Everest, it's really damn good. Living with it has been so easy. It drives really well, great turning circle, punchy enough engine, and then all of its standard inclusions in the Exceed model. The adaptive cruise control, the digital display cluster, the heated seats, keyless entry and start, a fully leather interior, and more. And then the fact it does have that permanent all-wheel drive system, should you want it, is fantastic. Oh, did I mention it comes with a 7-year warranty? I think my dad said it really well when he took this car for a drive. He said, this is the kind of car you get into and it feels like you've driven for 10 years because it's so easy to live with. And I couldn't agree more, Dad. Can you please send me some money? I'm really struggling. But anyway, guys, if you did enjoy the video, please do go down there and hit the thumbs up button. It really, really helps the channel out. Subscribe if you're new. I release an awesome new car review every single week, so you can see as soon as that's uploaded. Comment down below what you think of the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. I think it's an awesome car, and I want to know what you guys think. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe you prefer the Toyota Fortuner or another competitor. Tell me down below. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.